Welcome back, folks, to the Inside Line F1 podcast and Pits To Podium. And we were having a tremendous discussion about Sainz pitting. Should they have undercut, perhaps? Should they have done something about Hamilton? So make sure that you rewind back a little bit and check out more on that in case you missed it. But Kunal, we've got other aspects to discuss, other fun things to dive into as well about this race. And let's for a second speak about this just outrageous battle and more on Fernando Alonso, because this was not just an Alonso masterclass in defense, but also an Alonso masterclass in statesmanship. Probably the first time ever that he's done something quite like this for a teammate. Have you ever seen Fernando Alonso be so generous? His defending was a masterclass. He was like a brick wall that would not be broken. 13 consecutive laps or something thereabout that he stopped Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton, once he got past, Sainz was broken down in one lap. Alonso held him up for that much longer when Lewis had fresher rubber in relation to when he had with Sainz. Let that sink in. It was memories of 2007, Kunal, and honestly, it's a bit of a travesty that they've shared the track for so many seasons, but we have only seen a Hamilton versus Alonso battle on track a handful of times. This was just, honestly, I think this has to be the best on-track battle that we've seen in F1 since Alonso versus Vettel back in 2014 in Silverstone.
Yeah. So I'm going to read out tire life, right? So Hamilton's hards were, or he was on actually mediums. They were 23 laps old by the end of the race. Carlos Sainz's hards were 38 laps old, and then Alonso's hards were 31 laps old. So just, my mind just goes to that battle because yes, he did something for the team. The team immediately acknowledged and told Ocon. Ocon acknowledged it in public, which was fantastic. I loved how, Alonso went and hugged Ocon and so on. But something that the official broadcast missed, but one of the partner channels of Formula One actually threw up, was when Fernando Alonso was being interviewed by that channel. Max Verstappen comes up and pats Alonso on the back, on his back. And then, they, of course, fist bump and so on. Then Alonso actually says, I tried my best. And we all know in what context, we can assume in what context Fernando Alonso actually said that, right? So, like I said, it's so great. And this is why Alonso is back in Formula One. He can't win races right now, but he's able to influence outcomes when he has the chance. He's able to do all these heroics that are there. And mind you, Somil, I think we are being like the F1, director of the world feed today. We are actually not speaking about Esteban Ocon at all, despite the, Frenchman having a very rough last 3 years, winning his first ever Grand Prix.
Yeah. Let's get to that in 1 second, but I have to reference the amazing questions that we've got. One from Arindam. From my POV, Alonso and Hamilton were just equally fabulous. What do you think? 100%. They were on top of their game. This is the sort of racing that we all love to watch. And then, of course, one from Said Afif. Can you start a petition from Fernando Alonso to be in a championship-winning car next year? Yes, 100%. We'd love to see that. And also one from Shilp as well. All respect for Ocon. What a drive that one was. Seriously, Kunal, this is just tremendous. But I think let's get to Ocon in a second. Let us give you apologies for that in case you see Kunal in a slightly bigger view on the video. Things happen with OBS. The normal stuff. But yes, let's speak about the stats review right now. Sundaram is finally back with a stats review this time out, and this will give you more context on Ocon's win so that we can speak about it more in depth in a couple of moments. So here goes. Time for a stats review with Sundaram.
Thank you, Saumil. It's time to do the stats review of that action-filled and chaotic Hungarian Grand Prix. But before getting into the numbers, I think it's fair to share my 2 cents of how that race panned out. If you're an Alonso fan, you would have obviously loved that race, especially his duel with Lewis Hamilton in those last 10, 15 odd laps. But still, it was a very bizarre race on so many different counts. For example, Nicholas Latifi and Yuki Tsunoda running P3 and P4 up until the first round of pit stops, and then seeing both Williams cars and the Alfa Romeo of Kimi Raikkonen finishing ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. Now, that's usually a very fast McLaren, but it shows that he's clearly struggling to adjust in that car this year. And something that was very, very weird was seeing Lewis Hamilton being the lone car on the grid at the time of the restart and also after the race, because Esteban Ocon and Sebastian Vettel had parked elsewhere on the circuit and had to run up to the podium area. But one thing I would like to say is that it's nice to see these sort of races every now and then, because it kind of builds confidence and builds the sort of excitement in the sport that we usually tend to see not really all that much, because it's usually the title contenders and the bigger teams that are fighting for wins and podiums. And here we have someone from the younger generation, a young kid who's totally coming out of the blue, and he's been given the opportunity to lead a race, and he does not drop it at all. So kudos to Esteban Ocon for having a flawless race. And these sort of races usually give us a lot of stats and facts, and I'm probably going to be up all night digging all those stats for you guys. So definitely keep an eye for a stats rundown article that's going to go up on the website in a couple of days. But here are my favorite stats from this particular race. Now, Hungary has been hosting the Hungarian Grand Prix for the last 36 years, but this is the very first time we've had a red flag at this circuit. 36 long years and the first red flag ever. And now, that was because of that first lap collision, Valtteri Bottas shunting into Lando Norris because he couldn't brake in time, and he took along a couple of other cars with him. But this was Valtteri Bottas's first ever time he's had a first lap retirement in 167 race starts. So it goes to show that he's usually a very consistent driver, someone who tends to stay away from danger. Today was a bit of an unlucky day, and he's had his first lap retirement. Now we have to talk about the championship contender, Max Verstappen. He finished the race P10 and was running out of the points for most part of the race. But this was his worst race finish since the 2016 season. Bit of a bad day for him the last two races, I would say. But today's hero was clearly the Alpine team, Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso, driving brilliantly well and taking Alpine's first ever race win under the Alpine moniker. Now, there's technically still a Renault team, so that means it's their first race win since the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix. Now, there's a very interesting stat that I managed to find about Alpine's current drivers. Fernando Alonso, his first F1 race win was at the Hungaroring in a Renault-powered car. Today, Esteban Ocon's first ever race win is at the very same track in a Renault-powered car. Now, there was one other driver who's managed to do this. That was Damon Hill in 1993, who was driving for Williams Renault back then. And even he managed to win with a Renault-powered car at this very circuit. And out of those three, Damon Hill and Fernando Alonso managed to win championships. Hopefully, Esteban Ocon can do that as well once the new regulations kick in next year. And lastly, we have to talk about the Williams team. Now, the Williams team managed to take their first ever points since the 2019 German Grand Prix, that is 37 races ago. A very, very emotional race for them and George Russell especially. And Lewis Hamilton, in these 37 races, has managed to score 727 points, while Williams managed to take their first points in a very, very long time today. And also the first time they took double points since the 2018 season. So quite a few stats, in fact, from this race. I hope you guys enjoyed this. But yeah, keep an eye for that article that's going up on the website. And I'll catch you guys after the summer break. Hope you guys have a nice one.
Well, just a small correction that Sundaram has told me to make on his behalf. The last time Renault won was in Japan 2008. Another fun race, slightly forgettable that one, considering all that happened right there. But just amazing to see the context that Sundaram has laid down on this one. And he's so right about younger drivers getting the chance. Younger drivers finally coming up again. We saw Gasly last year. We're seeing Ocon this year. It's just phenomenal. And the career of Esteban Ocon so far, Kunal, it's always been labelled with doubt. It's always been more like, yeah, Ocon, is he good enough? Ocon, he's too aggressive. He's not fast enough. And that sort of stuff. He had to spend a year outside F1. And when you hear his backstory, how he has come into Formula One, the kind of struggles that his family has put in, it just is so emotionally satisfying to see the celebrations. I couldn't stop smiling for the next hour after the race ended. It was that special. What a win. And let's not take anything away from him. The way he held on his composure when you have a 4-time world champion charging behind you, stunning.
I think that was very rightly put, Samuel, a 4 times world champion. We didn't miss all, or rather we missed all the times that Vettel probably made an attempt, put him under pressure, in DRS, out of DRS, under braking, and so on. but the TV directors almost never caught the battle at the front, right? There was a blue and a green car, which was leading, and that's pretty unusual for them as well. So maybe they were just waiting for a black and a purple car to show up at some point. But I think Ocon has laid to rest, hopefully, all the questions that everyone asked, about his performance, his 3-year extension with Alpine, after his poor run of form for 4 races out of the last 5 or something, the whole chassis change that happened after the French Grand Prix, right? And to me that just shows, he's a talented guy. He didn't win on luck. He actually worked for it. It's not that he had to, drive well for a few laps of the race. He was being hounded for, 65 laps of the race, and he pretty much mastered that very, very well. So, hats off to Esteban Ocon. And, like we spoke about earlier, the way, Fernando Alonso supported the team in itself was pretty heartwarming to see.
Genuinely, it was so good. As we mentioned, Alonso playing the role of a statesman, and feels like Alonso has matured in a way at the age of 40. I mean, if you know what I mean, Alonso has always been more of the raw world championship type of driver, where from the outside at least it seems like he's very selfish, wants exactly what he wants to. But I think it's just a way of top drivers. Like Senna used to do it, Prost used to do it, you see Hamilton do it nowadays as well. It's just what the best of the best do. But so awesome to see Alonso in that role. But emotions were running wild. Emotions really were running wild right here, because along with Ocon as well, there was reports of onions being cut at Williams Canal. Williams, after 2018, finally getting, not 2018, but finally getting a double points after 2018. They got points at Hockenheim in 2019, but was it really points? That one was a bit crazy. Only one with Kubica. But now, after Sebastian Vettel's disqualification, they don't just have 6 points in the Constructors' Championship. I think they have 8. This is something that Russell has been working for such a long time. The entire Williams crew, you've seen them gone through thick and thin. To finally see them not just get points, but double points is outstanding. But even in this situation, Kunal, Russell has been beaten by his teammate who gets more points, just like Kubica back in 2019. This poor guy, I mean, even though he's gone out there and put out his best performance with Williams in terms of a point scoring perspective, just gets beaten by a teammate again.
It was, for the longest, everyone wondered if Latifi would just manage to even put it onto the podium.
Exactly. He's third.
It's just the luck of being George Russell, I guess,
Yeah.
but I'm glad there were no breakdowns in his car, which is also what's happened several times. And, he was, of course, interviewed by all broadcasters. He was there for Via Sport, Via Play as well. And he actually said that, they deserve points at several other races as well. But, this time luck took their side, and that's why they scored the points. I think it's phenomenal. They jumped they jumped Haas and Alfa Romeo both in the constructors championship, and this means a lot of money for Williams as well going into the summer break. Valtteri Bottas has made a mistake. George Russell has delivered a brilliant performance for Williams. The whole psychological scenario, driver contracts being up for discussion. I don't know which way it's going to go, but, the momentum definitely seems, to be in George Russell's way, just the way momentum is suddenly in Mercedes's way. They've turned deficits in the last 2 races into having a sizable gap in the drivers and the constructors championship, Samuel.
Yep, I'll lay down more context on that with a stunning stat, but we have to answer this question firstly from Rohit right now. It's a good one. Why did George have to give up his positions post the restart? Didn't the issue happen because of Mazepin and Giovinazzi? By the way, Mazepin and Raikkonen, that was. Craziness, unsafe release by Raikkonen. Mazepin seeing his suspension breaking off in the most docile crash of the millions of crashes that we seemingly saw in Hungary. But no, what happened was George carved his way past the pit lane. He took an undercut in a way, and he passed cars he was not supposed to pass. And that is why he was supposed to give back all the positions. It had nothing to do with the crash that happened. He just sneaked out a little bit of space right there and went ahead. But now that we've spoken about Williams and their emotional roller coaster, now that we've spoken about Ocon and the emotional roller coaster it has been for them, it will feel, in a sporting sense, like a funeral in the Red Bull team garage right now. Both their cars knocked out. I mean, Max got a point, but that's really not much in this situation. Yeah, you might say Brazil 2008, and it generally does matter, but they've lost, Kunal, can you believe it? They've lost 48 points in the last two rounds to Mercedes and Hamilton. Verstappen, that is. It's just outrageously huge, this gap. And this is why we often say, right, a championship is not just won on pace. A championship is not just won on paper. Say back in 1982, a season that I am a geek about, it was Ferrari who were clearly the fastest. It was Renault who were clearly the fastest. And who won the championship? Keke Rosberg and his Williams. Like Brabham as well back in 1985, wasn't it? So, not 85, 83. It always happens. We always see sometimes that a team that is much, much faster, they get bad luck at times. They get taken out in crashes. And in this case, for Red Bull in the last couple of rounds, neither of it was their fault in a way.
It wasn't, and it's just so unfortunate. Max Verstappen being taken out on the first lap by a Mercedes, that's become like the standard, so to say. It's unfortunate. And, I was listening in on the post-race radio exchange between Christian Horner and Max Verstappen, and I could actually sense the despair in their voice. Of course, I'm no psychologist who's able to, read into these things. But one of the things Christian Horner actually said was, don't worry, Max, luck will come our way. And that's what it seems like, because they have the quickest car on the grid. And, Mercedes has just somehow managed to bring a halt to their charge, to Red Bull's charge. And that's what they're all, now trying to figure, how do we correct that? So going into the summer break, again, Mercedes will carry positive momentum, and Red Bull will just be wondering, just hit us that we were comfortably in the lead. And now, boom, we are back to chasing Mercedes all over again.
And the pace looked good from Red Bull as well this weekend, but Mercedes were faster in qualifying. Even though we saw the mind games happen, Mercedes were the ones who got the better lap in, and Max as well. You were struggling without a barge board. Of course, you will struggle without a barge board, but it's now created a situation where we genuinely are not aware if the Red Bull is the faster car or the Mercedes. And only a couple of rounds ago in Austria, we were saying, well, the championship is done. Not we, but many people on Twitter were saying that, championship is done. Max is dominating now. It's just too good. Formula One, Kunal, just always springs up something so special. And look at it for the second drivers as well. Lando Norris is now beating Bottas and Perez heading into the summer break. Madness.
Incredible. And, I still am convinced that it's Red Bull that's the faster car. In Hungary, it was the hotter temperatures in qualifying that let Mercedes be quicker. So I was pretty positive that had conditions stayed as cool as they were, because there was a rain shower in the afternoon, there was rain then as well, it would have probably worked to Red Bull's advantage. But that's all said and done. It is what it is. That's also coincidentally what Christian Horner said. And there will, of course, be a larger impact on the team, given the whole budget gap. They had a 1.8 million crash in Silverstone. I expect, a similar, well, not a similar, but he had two cars, one car, literally, it was like a Terminator, Max's car. One side, the left-hand side was perfect. The right-hand side was all scratched and removed. And I think there was a point when he had more bandages on the car, or pretty much, after the restart that happened, right? But that's just how it goes. Just wait. I'm sure there's going to be a number that Christian Horner will say. He'll just do. Yeah, that cost us $500,000 for Perez's car or for Max's car, and then $3 million for Perez's car. He's just going to throw a number, and we'll just be like, yeah, okay, that's what it cost Red Bull Racing.
Actually, it might be a big number, because Sergio Perez might just have to take an engine change, which might give him a grid drop. So the next time we come up to Belgium, it might be Bottas with a grid drop, Perez with a grid drop, Stroll with a grid drop. Some fun results might come into qualifying. Watch out for Yuki Tsunoda, early prediction. But hey, fun questions to ask. There's one that we have to answer about Sebastian Vettel, thrown in by our colleague Nityanan. He's asked, why does FIA need a fuel sample? It's a good one. Why does FIA need a fuel sample? And there's a long history of this, because we've seen sometimes teams, let's just say, I want to speak about Tirreno in the 1984 Formula One season and the lead-cooled brakes and all that and whatever they did, but largely sometimes teams use ingenious solutions, don't they?
They do, and your history is perfect when it comes to this. Teams just in the past have used banned additives in their fuel, so the FIA said, we will check for all fuel samples as a standard procedure post race. For that check, we need 1 liter of fuel. So if you need 100 liters for the race, for example, put 101 liter, because we will take that 1 liter out.
Yeah.
And that liter is what Vettel didn't have. And it's been there. It's a standard procedure. It's why the FIA policed the sport. And well, you can't fault the FIA for a team not following the instructions. And Otmar, of course, said there is fuel, but the regular extraction pump isn't able to extract it. But that's again where standardization comes in.
Yeah.
The FIA says this is a standard procedure. By this pump, we need 1 liter of fuel. The team's done it for several races, and suddenly in Hungary, that pump didn't sort of work.
Yeah.
So the FIA doesn't take that as an excuse. They're saying this is the pump, even if it means that the pump is taking 1.5 liters of fuel. We don't care, but this is the pump you'll continue to use. Of course, I'm just giving a lame example, saying this is the pump that one needs to use. So, Otmar's whole point about we have a calculation of how much fuel went in before and after and all doesn't matter. It is what the pump says after a point.
Well, as it's happening, I just got a WhatsApp notification which said that Aston Martin are going to appeal the disqualification. Of course they are. Well, if this is the case, it's not going to work out. Well, just do it like BAR back in 2005. Just slap in an extra fuel tank, hide it somewhere, and hope that nobody ever finds it until they do. Read about that story ever. It's just a crazy one. But here's one question to wrap off our podcast, which has been amazing so far. I'm having a gala time, just like the race. One from Arindam. It's the first time he's sent in a question, he or she. I mean, I'm not quite sure, but thank you so much for sending in, mate. From not from Arindam, I'm sorry. I am making a hash of it. One from Manav Sada, unfortunately. Do athletes feel their statements make more impact during the events in context to social issues? That has to be regarding Sebastian Vettel, of course, wearing a rainbow t-shirt, which I think was a very commendable move. And considering the circumstance, it, I think, was a very strong message. But what are your thoughts on this, Kunal? Athletes and their voice really makes a difference. Right? We've seen what Lewis Hamilton has been able to do over the last couple of years, make such a positive impact on the sport.
Oh, yes, Samuel, absolutely. Firstly, let's applaud these athletes for using their social platforms and their reach to amplify messages that the world actually needs to read or to be aware of, right? I know there is a very polarized debate on whether they should do this. If they should do this, should it be all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, we race as one, the LGBTQ plus, and so on. But the fact is, if it's a cause that you genuinely believe in, use your reach and your status to try and bring some positivity around that. So that's what Sebastian Vettel did. That's what Lewis Hamilton has been championing all along. And, I'm going to go back a couple of days that were there, right? So the whole chatter after Silverstone and in on Thursday press conferences at Hungary was Hamilton and Verstappen at cops, right? And we had asked Hamilton a question saying, what were his thoughts after the crash? And he actually turned around and said, it was done. I won the race. I went home and I channelized all my energy and time towards mission 44. Right. So they are able to use all their energies into driving positive societal change. And guys, not everyone may agree if it's a positive change or if the society needs to change. But hey, it's not about you. It's what about these athletes feel. And I really applaud them for doing that. Right. Yeah. And this is also, going into focus of Lewis Hamilton being booed after qualifying. That's right. My view is that he was absolutely right within the rules to do what he did to Max Verstappen. That's been done and dusted. But somebody, on my Twitter timeline, probably a Hungarian fan, wrote back saying Lewis's LGBTQ plus post that he put on Instagram against the stance of the Hungarian government probably annoyed a few pro-government fans or pro-government people who then ended up booing him at the Grand Prix. Of course, far-fetched thought, but all of these things happen. Hats off to Vettel for doing what he did and saying that he would do it again as well, Samuel.
Fair, 100% fair from Hamilton. Again, I don't think you can link this to politics. As a closing note, it's more of a societal aspect, and the base and the root of it is Come on, man. Just be nice to everybody. What does it matter what their race or their gender or whatever it is? Just people, right, at the end of the day. So I sort of have to applaud Hamilton and Vettel for doing what they are doing right now. But folks, that is it for our Hungarian GP review on the Inside Line F1 podcast and Pits to Podium. Just before we head into the summer break, it's not going to be summer break right here. We've got more awesome stuff coming up for you right here, including live streams as we speak to multiple journalists, racing drivers, try to find out their takes on Formula Ones. And you can see the past episodes as well on the podcast and the Pits to Podium YouTube channel, so you know exactly what to do. But folks, stay right here. And for all of your non-video entertainment or non-podcast based entertainment, check out the link down below in the description to follow Pits to Podium on our social media handles. But folks, that's it from us right here. Thank you so much for being a part of this, Kunal. Thank you so much for listening and watching, folks. And we shall see you, not in Belgium, before that, for lots of fun stuff. So stay right here.
See you guys, and thank you so much, Saumil. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic summer break for us.
Indeed.